What have you got for us today, mate? You've got some more banks that are set to go under. I can't believe it. When you sent that message to me about what you wanted to talk about, I was like, really? More already? It's only been a couple of days since the last one. What the hell?
Oh, look, I'm looking forward to the day when I don't have to talk about this anymore, this topic. And I'm sure that your audience is probably getting tired of it too. But, and I wouldn't be talking about today if there weren't a new development. And, I feel a sense of responsibility to keep people appraised on what's going on so that they're prepared. So this is important stuff. I can't tell you. Look, I think that we are coming up on a life-changing period of time here. I mean, literally, I can't diminish that thought. I can't emphasize that enough. That this could be huge. Honest to God, or what's going to happen here to us in our economy and in our lives could be on par with what happened in the Great Depression. Now, it might not happen. I hope it doesn't happen. Look, this is one of the times when I hope that I'm wrong. But listen, preparing for that, there's no downside in preparing for it. If it doesn't happen, cool. But the steps that we are telling people to take doesn't set you back at all. On the other hand, if it does play out, this way, I want people to be prepared so that they at least minimize their suffering. If not, maybe even actually benefit from it. So this is such important stuff to know about and to be aware of. So that's why I keep bringing it up. So should I dive right in?
Before you throw to that, I just want to kind of comment on what you're saying there. I was watching Nate at Canadian Prepper yesterday. If you haven't seen that channel, folks, I'll put the link down in the description. You should check out Nate. He does a daily dose of some doom and gloom, goes around the map and shows you what's going on in the world. But he's also a hardcore prepper at heart. And one of the things that he was saying yesterday is that you're underestimating how bad the changes that we're about to experience are going to be. And not a lot of people are sounding the alarm on that. You've been sounding the alarm on that for a while. You and I have been talking about this stuff for a couple of years now. And all the things that we've been talking about have come to pass. And it's unfolding. The problem is you have this normalcy bias where you're used to banks going under, you're used to these things happening. But if you rewind the clock 5 years ago, there's no such thing as banks going broke. There's no such thing as a war in Europe or on the precipice of a nuclear exchange or the last throw of the dice in a war before NATO engages with Russia. It's like these things have just become normal to us. And this normalcy bias creates optimism bias. And optimism bias thinks that we're looking towards all the good in things all the time, and that stops us from preparing. And the way Nate describes it is you've got to get ready while the getting is good.
Yeah.
And that's right now. Yeah. You say it all the time. You created a little mantra for the channel for us, Ed, where you've got to get your money out of the bank, reduce your exposure, buy some gold and silver, and create some passive recurring income. Because if inflation strikes, the economy crashes, the stock market goes away, or war happens, and all 3 or 4 of those things happen simultaneously, we're in big trouble, really, really big trouble. And if a nuclear exchange happens in Europe, we'll see worldwide panic like you've never seen before at a scale that you've never seen before. And if you've got 3 months worth of food and 12 months worth of toilet paper, you'll be okay. But the reality is that when you're trying to actually do something like that, it's going to, while that's actually unfolding in real time in front of you, that's going to be something that's really, really difficult for you to deal with. So do the preparation and get while the getting is good before this thing bites us all on the ass. It's going to be a pretty serious time. So with that, Ed, let me jump out of the stream, mate, and I'll hand over to you. And why don't you share your first little segment with us? Go.
All right, let's go. A bombshell report from the Federal Reserve just revealed the real fragility behind the banking system, but nobody is covering this in the mainstream media. But I'm going to cover it for you right here. So let's talk about it.
One eternity later.
Okay, so about 6 weeks ago now, the general public was surprised at the development that happened at SVB Bank and at Signature Bank and at First Republic Bank. Well, apparently, the Federal Reserve was not surprised. They just released a report that nobody is talking about, but I want you to know about it because it is scary stuff. So This is what the report said, and this is just out over the past couple of days. And the report says this: at third quarter end, 722 banks reported unrealized losses exceeding 50% of their capital. Now, remember, this is the third quarter of last year. So the Federal Reserve knew this last year, and they didn't do anything for SVB Bank. They didn't anticipate. They didn't step in to help. So according to this report, as of the third quarter of last year, and things have only gotten worse since then, 722 banks were essentially insolvent. If there were to be any kind of a run on those banks, boom, they're done. They're out of business. So this just reinforces everything that we have been warning you about. So what is the Federal Reserve doing about this? You would think that they would want to head this off at the pass, right? So let's take a look at what they're doing. So this is the Federal Reserve's brilliant plan to protect the financial system. For banks less than $100 billion, they're going to do enhanced monitoring of banks, and they're going to conduct targeted examinations, and they're going to expand follow-up at the banks. So basically what they're saying is we're going to keep a close eye on them. That's it. That's the extent of their plan. And for banks that are greater than $100 billion, they're going to utilize existing on-site horizontal supervisory programs to monitor the firm's exposure to interest rate increases. So what they're going to do is they're going to park actual people inside of the banks, right? They're going to, I don't know, give them a corner office at these banks and monitor things. So they're monitoring stuff. Listen, this report and their plan to address these issues, it is a joke. I mean, can we see that this is a government operation? So I did a video recently where I compared the 2008 financial crisis with what's going on right now in the banks. And I think I did a pretty good job summarizing the current state of our banks compared to back then. So please bear with me. Allow me to play a few-second clip of my own video. Okay, so I'm here to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you things that you're not going to hear in the mainstream media. With every bank that has gone under, we've had 3 American banks go under, right? Not to mention Credit Suisse that went under. In every case, the talking heads were on TV telling you that everything's fine, nothing to worry about. It was a one-off event and we are good. Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. This is just the beginning. This is going to make 2007, 2008, 2009 look like a picnic. Let me give you some unfun facts. In 2007, 25 banks failed for a total of $526 billion. Well, in the last 6 weeks alone, we've had 3 major bank failures, and we're already at $532 billion. So with just those 3 banks, we are already $6 billion over the entire amount of 25 banks that went under in 2007. So at 3 banks, we've already outpaced 25 banks back then. And of course, as I mentioned, the bank stock index has lost 50% of its value in the past 2 months. And this is not over. This is a full... Okay, so quoting myself, this is not over. Start paying attention if you haven't been. Reduce your exposure to your bank, put some of your money into gold and silver, and establish streams of passive recurring income. Okay, so that's my little update for the day on the banking industry. All right, so can you believe that this is not being covered basically at all in the mainstream media? Not even on the business channels, the market channels. They didn't cover it. That's I just gave about 500 and something billion dollars already being lost within 3 banks versus we've exceeded the 2008 level. 2008, that was a big financial disaster.
Ed, once again, mate. Once again, man. I'm so glad I know you, and I'm so glad that you're in my circle of influence because you have such a wonderful way of bringing this to bear. And as I'm listening to you there, I'm thinking, there's a YouTube short. There's another one. There's another one. There's another one. And then I check myself, right? Like, why am I thinking about creating content while I'm listening to you? And the reason is because I'm trying to wake you up. Right? If I feel like Grandpa Simpson, like with my hands around Homer's neck, or Homer with, his hands around Bart's neck, like, wake up, listen, like one eternity later, and it's not an eternity. It's literally just like moments later, you say another fact and another thing there. I was just writing some numbers down there as I was watching there. So as you said, 722 banks from their report. A quick Google search shows me there's 4,844 banks in America.